Here's what the title says. Fire strikes. Just a fire comes out of nowhere and strikes a Pioneer Square art gallery, damaging a Picasso and Rembrandt pieces. Pieces that you cannot replace. Now, here's what that title should have read. Homeless drug addict trying to stay warm because he doesn't want to go into a shelter, starts a fire, and then that fire destroys the building in which Pioneer Square Art Gallery was located, damaging a Picasso and a Rembrandt. That's what it should have said. You know what all everybody's doing is blaming the fire. That guy was just trying to keep warm. Yeah, let's get into it. Here we go.
Good evening. A lot of people know Davidson Gallery, and you can see right now behind me it is in the process of being boarded up. This fire destroyed at least one Rembrandt and a Picasso. The thing right now that people are trying to do is save as much artwork as possible.
Oh, it's open.
The mood inside Davidson Galleries is very dark.
We shouldn't stay too long in here. The air quality is so bad in here.
The walls are a blank canvas after a fire destroyed the Pioneer Square art space Friday morning.
We're saving as much as we can.
For gallery manager Rebecca McDonald, assessing the lost art is painful.
We did lose a Picasso.
From the big names to the local artists.
We have artwork from 1490 all the way up to the ink is still drying on the paper. We have that whole range.
An estimated 18,000.
And one whacked out drug addict ruined that priceless art. Just, yeah. Because here's the reality. That guy could have checked himself. We've got all kinds of cold weather shelters being opened in Seattle right now because it's been cold. It's been in the 20s, dipped down into the teens. So everybody knows it's cold, but you can't do your drugs there. So, you know, you do what you got to do. And he's starting a fire literally against the building and in his whacked out state. I don't know any of this for certain, but you know, when the media comes right out and says, hey, it was just somebody trying to stay warm. There's a reason we don't allow fires in alleyways in big urban areas, because this kind of shenanigan takes place. Because you can only imagine the guy's trying to stay warm, which I don't blame him. He's lighting a fire. Okay. He shoots up. He smokes whatever. He nods off. You've seen these folks. They can't operate at all. They're super vulnerable. And preventing a fire from taking over, that's not going to happen either, right? It's just like, it's up and gone. But nobody in Seattle, everybody's just so, it's an accident. Yeah, it's an accident that could have been prevented because we allow homeless people to just go wherever, do whatever. How many of the fire calls in Seattle are for the homeless population? Whether it's them starting a fire, lighting their tent on fire, fire bombing somebody else, fire bombing a fentanyl tent. I mean, we've had all of that kind of thing happen in Seattle, and we see it in LA. How about the fire underneath the freeway? There's a reason we don't allow people to just set up and camp wherever willy-nilly and then, you know, have a little fire, because stuff like this happens. And yet Seattle is just, this guy's just trying to stay warm. Well, guy should have been trying to stay warm in a shelter, in a warming shelter, period. It's that cool. Fires, no go. This is what happens. Let's deal with reality. Let's keep going.
Works of art collected over 50 years was in danger as smoke and flames poured through the building. Seattle firefighters even did their part to preserve the art while unseen.
But they knew what they were handling was precious art.
Hours later,
we don't want any dampness anywhere near the artwork.
And a few blocks away, the art rescue continues. Employees and volunteers are salvaging as much art as possible.
As we've been opening everything up, so we're seeing everything's really quite well protected.
It's an arduous task between cleaning and cataloging the art. Davidson Gallery says it's work that has to get done so that people can once again enjoy artwork when the gallery reopens.
But we're focusing on what we can save. I don't care if it's $5 or $10 or, $20,000. We're treating everything as if it's valuable and trying to save as much as possible.
Hey, if you're enjoying this content, love to have you subscribe. Hit the like button for this video. Hit the notification bell. We put out a ton of content. Helps us out, helps us grow the channel. Thanks in advance.
And again, fire
There you go.
investigators say the cause of this fire was due to an individual in the back of the building in the alleyway trying to stay warm. That person lit a fire in the doorway and it spread to the building, causing a 2-alarm fire. Luckily, no one was hurt. And again, fire investigators are calling this fire an accident. In Pioneer Square, Dave Detling, Fox 13 News.
But you can just see how progressive Seattle is, because nobody's saying anything about, hey, are charges going to be filed against the guy? I mean, he did it on accident, but it's like, it's okay. Guy's trying to stay warm. Nobody wants to go there. Nobody wants to uphold the law. Nobody wants to say, hey, you know what? That guy shouldn't have been in the alley with his own fire playing, Boy Scout and trying to get the fire going. We recognize it's cold outside. That's why all the shelters have been opened up. So this whole notion of, it's just an accident. Yeah, it was $1 million accident that could have been avoided. So what are we going to do about that? Nothing. We're just going to, so this art gallery is literally moving. They were in the process of moving and all their stuff was out and it was kind of in the process of being packaged away. They're going to be moving, I think, in February. We'll read about that in a second. But so they've got this other spot that they can take the items to. You want to talk about a tricky cleanup? And you've got priceless art. I'm no huge art guy, but when you've got artists that the general population really enjoys, Picasso being one of them, it's like, okay, we have an art gallery really close to some of the toughest areas in downtown Seattle with a bunch of, really famous art pieces, Rembrandt and Picasso, and a bunch of other stuff. And the owner said from 1400s. And it's like, come on, what? This is at play, folks. This is what happens when you just allow people to post up willy-nilly wherever. And then, you can't really blame them for just trying to stay warm, right? Because it's dropped down into the teens here in Seattle. And, from that standpoint, but that's the reason why we don't let people just live wherever, camp wherever, and start fires wherever, because this is what happens, $1 million accident. So it's a 3-story art gallery in Seattle's Pioneer Square neighborhood. Many of its pieces inside were damaged in a serious fire. It's happened on Friday. So the Seattle Police Department or Fire Department received multiple 911 calls just after 6:30 a.m. It was early in the morning Friday about a fire inside Davidson Galleries, which is located at 300 block of Occidental. A post on Seattle Fire Department's Fire Line blog reported that shortly after 7 a.m., Incident Command upgraded the response to a 2-alarm fire. Plus, guys, don't use your fire hoses because we got valuables inside. And everything gets wet. It's just a mess, right? I had a flood in my house this past, when was that? November? I think it was November. Just a bunch of stuff got wet. And even though it's stuff that I wasn't particularly concerned about, it's like, it just takes so long to dry everything out. Do I toss this? Do I get rid of this? All right, here's a Picasso here. Do we clean it up? What do we do, guys? Yeah, what a lot of work. So, Incident Command upgraded the response to a 2-alarm fire, requesting additional crews for searching all floors of the gallery, as well as the neighboring businesses. It does not sound like it hit the other businesses, which, all right, okay, great. But, you just want somebody to say, hey, you know what? We're going to start some more emphasis patrols in downtown Seattle, and we're going to do what we can to let people know you can't be lighting the buildings on fire. That's a hard no-go. Even though it seems like fire within the homeless community is just a given. Just light one on fire. It's fine. It's all good. According to the Seattle Police Department Health One station nearby, they were the first unit on the scene and surveyed the area to help arriving fire engines access the fire. So, yeah, it started by a person trying to keep warm. I get that. That's why you can't stay outside when it's super cold. You're going to freeze to death, right? You're going to freeze to death. But it spread quickly to Davidson Galleries, which contained an estimated 18,000 works of art collected over 50 years. Now, back in the day, Pioneer Square wasn't nearly as bad as it is now. Some people say, it's gotten way better, Sean. Well, from what I saw last summer when I was there, and I'm there a couple of times a year, Pioneer Square, I was there. I was going through Pioneer Square on my way to the Seahawks game. My son and I were trying to find some damn parking. We ended up paying $96. I think it was 96 for a parking spot for the Monday Night Football game, Seahawks. $96 for parking. Oof, yeah. So we went through Pioneer Square. We're just looking for parking because it's really close to the Seahawks Stadium. And it's got riffraff. It's got shenanigans happening. It's just that area in downtown. Yeah, it's got some cool bars, got some cool stuff. You got museums, but then you've also got this other element that causes your $1 million shenanigan fire. Oops, sorry guys. Blew out a Picasso. Fire was brought under control quickly, but not before extensive damage was done to the building. Talk about damage done to a building. One of my other podcasts is going to be on that ridiculous tunnel, 60-foot long tunnel. You guys know this one? Have you guys heard this story? In a synagogue, a well-known synagogue in Brooklyn. Part of this synagogue, some real hardliner young kids, some activists, dug a tunnel either into said synagogue or out of said synagogue into a bathhouse. So many storylines to that story. It's incredible. And then when they came to fill up the 5-foot tall tunnel, 8-foot wide tunnel, 60-foot long tunnel, when the leaders of the synagogue were made aware, hey, you got a tunnel underneath there. They brought in the construction crew to fill up the hole with cement. Don't blame the messenger. I'm going to be questioning all of that. When that happened, about 5 of these kids who dug this tunnel, they hunkered down inside the tunnel and wouldn't come out. Eventually, the police had to come in, and there's this big back and forth. There was a brawl. I mean, it's some insane footage. You've got all these Hasidic Jews just kind of almost duking it out, and they're going back and forth with the police, and the police arrest these kids, and it's just this insanity and so many storylines of, if you don't really know why they're doing, what were they doing? They're excavating. They're for a Messiah that died in 1994, who was 92 years old. And he said they needed to expand this building because it's a worldwide known building. Yeah. Where people come to go visit. It's like, okay, that was damage done to the building. And now they've got structural damage, and they've got other buildings in the area red tagged. That's damage done to the building. This is damage to the building that could have been avoided. Hey, you can't build a fire in the alleyway here. That's a no-go because it might catch the building on fire. Firefighters entered the gallery from both the front entrance and the separate entrance in the back alley to pour water on the fire. I talked about in this area in Seattle, when I got out of my car, my girlfriend and I got out of the car, is where we're going to a show. We're going to a concert show that one of my friends actually put on. He was, anyway, you get out of the car, it just smells like urine. It just straight up smells like urine because people are living in the alleys. People are living wherever because we've allowed it to happen. So if you care about galleries, if you care about art, if you care about any buildings downtown, which most of you are going to say, who cares? They should have let it burn. Let it burn. That's what you got. I agree. But a Picasso, Rembrandt, don't want to see that stuff disappear, right? Because they ain't making any more of it. Know what I mean? And that's even if you're not, I don't care about art. I get that. But Picasso, come on now. No one was found inside the building, and injuries were reported, as they should have been. The incident is under investigation, Seattle Fire Department reported. By 8 a.m., the fire was under control, and it did not extend into any adjacent businesses, but extensive damage was done to the gallery, including some pieces that were housed inside. Ugh, brutal. Such an incredible loss, the art gallery told Cairo. Just hard to even able to assess the loss for the artist, the loss for the collectors. Pieces that we took in good faith are now toast. That's what happens. I don't want to say a huge I told you so, but this is the byproduct for what we've allowed to have happen here in Seattle along the West Coast. We're just, hey, it's an accident. We know it's an accident. We're not really going to do anything. Of course, they're not going to throw a guy in jail for accidental arson because it wasn't, probably on purpose, but The guy's whacked out of his mind on drugs. He's doing something crazy. He can't manage the fire. He can't work out, call 911 because that looks bad on him because he's probably got a bunch of drugs on him. Yeah, this is what you're dealing with. This is what you get. Seattle, this is what you get. This is where you sit, unfortunately. So until there's some real pushback, and I see the issue of fire in the homeless community, we see that all of the time. It is on the regular. So many calls, thousands and thousands and thousands of calls are made to 911 in response to homeless fires. The gallery was especially vulnerable as many art pieces were laid out on the floor because they were going to make a move to Yesler. It invited a maximum amount of smoke damage. That sucks. As of Friday night, users visiting the Davidson website will see a message saying the gallery is temporarily suspending sales while we handle an emergency situation in our building. Got a fire-damaged Picasso for you. Give you a deal. I'll certify it was in that fire. The message concludes by saying that they will resume their website activity shortly, and anyone interested in getting in touch with them get a slightly fire damage and may smell a little bit of smoke. And that's one thing with fire, right? You cannot get rid of the smoke damage. You just can't. It just gets in everything and you got to toss it. It's horrible. Fire, water. Horrible, horrible. So these are the shenanigans that Seattle and a lot of these West Coast cities we're enabling this. We are enabling this to happen. Just live wherever you want. And I think it's gotten to that point where people are like, no, you can't have people living willy-nilly, but cat's out of the bag. What are you going to do with all these folks? What are you going to do with all these migrant, drug-addicted, homeless folks? If it doesn't work out in Portland, go up to Seattle. Doesn't work in Seattle, go up to Vancouver, BC. If it doesn't work there, go down to San Fran. They'll take anybody, right? And so, you've just got this whole thing going on. And this is one more example of why you don't let people live just wherever the F they want, start a fire. Yeah. But you knew that because you're a reasonable person. All right. That's it for me. Thanks so much for being here. We'll catch up in the next one. Bye for now.